New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
And hello again, dear ones. Reverend Robert hiding behind the placard here.
Rev Z right here.
And this is New Thought Today. Happens every Tuesday at 2 p.m. on the Mountain Time Zone. Thank you for being with us, folks. We've been off for a couple of weeks, so we might be a little rusty here today. And if we are, please forgive us. But it's been I guess I'm going to say, Z, it's been a perfectly timed holiday season here in the Denver area. The snow fell at just the right time, and the roads were more or less clear by just the right time for both the Christmas and the New Year holiday, that it wasn't like it was a huge impact, and we more or less had a white Christmas and a white holiday.
Yeah. And for those who are interested, snow is still on the ground. But the streets are clear, so it's for a winter wonderland, if you will, and it lets you know that the seasons do change and that the spirit is always moving. If you think it's not.
Exactly. You say the streets are clear. The main arteries are clear. My neighborhood still got a good 2 inches of compacted snow on it.
Mine too.
So therefore, folks, we both are bringing you the winter wonderland of Colorado backdrops and backgrounds for you today to enjoy what we're doing here. Hey, we'd love to hear from you while we're here today too. Please do give a shout out, like, share, subscribe, make a comment, join the conversation as we go along here on New Thought Today. All right. So, folks, here it is. Early January. Today's the 3rd. It's real easy. And I find it interesting, Z, because in years past, there was always that huge push for setting intentions, setting goals, blah, 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 blah. And that's still there in the world. But it seems like within the New Thought community, that intense pressure to do that work over the holiday weekend or as close to the 1st as possible, it seems to be that it's mellowing out. I don't feel like I'm seeing that intensity of it anymore.
Yeah, I think that whole tradition, that whole process has gone within, if you will. I think people are still doing it on the individual level. They may call it something else, but I think a better name for it, or a better way to refer to it, is that more people are doing some reflection, right, of the year past, and trying to take some inventory. Use some new words here. Take some inventory on their current place, the things that were successful and not as successful in the previous year. And I think on top of that, to make an acknowledgement of, was I following the right dream, if you will? Was I following my most deepest passion? And then they're starting to try to make some adjustments to that. And I just think now, one of the things that's key for the whole planet, I mean, according to some ancient traditions, this year, 2023, is a year where spirituality, however you define it, meaning how do we begin to connect more with the world at a deeper level in terms of what spirituality means? I think this year is that is the pivotal point for this year. And so I think people are feeling that vibration, even whether they do it consciously or unconsciously, and they're making some choices in that direction.
Yeah. You bring up that great point. I hadn't even thought of it. Yeah, 2023, that's a 7. Ding. Roll that 7 first out of the gate. We're doing good. And I love, that's part of what I think for me. All right, so folks, remember, part of our focus is to look at how New Thought is evolving and calling us into a greater sense of the future. And this is one of them. I see the majority of the community has internalized these practices, which is, I think, what you're saying here, have internalized these practices to such a degree that it isn't just a New Year's Eve thing anymore. We do these reflections more regularly and more often. And I think that technology in many ways gives us more of those opportunities. We can turn it on at any time to do a visioning, do a meditation, do a prayer, do some sort of a forgiveness workshop or some sort of a communication workshop, and look more deeply at, I think, what you're also saying, how do I live this stuff rather than just sit around and talk about it?
Exactly. One of the key things I like at our center, CSL Denver, on New Year's Day, we had a bowl burning ceremony where we asked those who participated in the service to take a look back over the years and find some key phrases and key words that motivated them, or some areas that kind of stymied them, and write those down, write the challenges and the hopes for the future, if you will, and then burn it, right? Put that energy into the universe so that it gets a big, we know like attracts like. So when we do that, the things we want to release, it attracts more releasing, and the things we want to attract to be present, that happens. And so it's a ritual, but it's a symbolism that is very powerful when done in the right way. And I think that's one of the key things that we have to begin in this year. Is we need to begin to create more rituals for ourselves individually, so that we get that touchstone of spirit, of energy, of insight that can guide us when we need some moments of clarity or we need some moments of strength.
Yeah. I love where this is all taking us, folks. We sit in the back room, in the green room beforehand, and we chat about what we might talk about. And then we come out here and we talk about all kinds of different stuff instead. And sometimes we circle back around to what we planned, but sometimes Spirit doesn't take us there. And that's a big part of what we're talking about. Right. There is that burning bowl experience that then leads us to an even greater sense of practice. And I love what you're saying about ritual, because you got to have the practice or the ritual kind of means nothing if there isn't a practice that it is supporting and serving. So practice isn't, oh, I forgot to do my prayer work. Where's my pen? Let me write this down real quick. Right. It's bringing ourselves into a deeper recognition, a deeper experience of our own presence in this oneness, in this great thing, the divine.
Yes, and I think I have a quote by Einstein that reads like this. It says, "You have to learn the rules of the game, and then you have to play better than anyone else. Not in a way to subjugate someone else, but in a way to demonstrate what's possible when we commit and dedicate ourselves to some endeavor."
Yes. And now,
that's it.
And now let's imagine that with 20 people playing the same game and actually playing together.
Yes.
To play better than a little bit of competition there, but to play it better than it, or let's just say to play the game better than it's ever been played before.
Yes.
And
go ahead.
And that's what I see happening down at CSL Denver. is
Well, I
a
think
small
thank
group
you.
of committed individuals coming together that have learned how to play the game, have learned the rules of how to use this power, how to use these principles, how to use these practices to buoy themselves into a place of not just demonstration, but attracting, forgive the use of the word, attracting even more people to an opportunity to wake up.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's key, because one thing that happened over the program that we did on Sunday, the Burning Bowl, we had a couple of guests that for me were like a sign from heaven, right? We had two individuals who showed up for the service. One of them was a previous minister at the center where we are now located, and that same person was one of the charter members of what was started out as the Church of the CSL Church of Denver. That's now CSL Denver. Was one of the charter members of that. Her name is on the charter papers. And I took that as such a synchronistic moment for this year of how we begin to continue to do something we talked about early in the year, is the beloved community. How we begin to create this beloved community where everybody feels welcome. Everybody has a part to play because they understand the rules of the game, as Einstein said. And now the competition is not against each other, but see who can play the game at its finest.
At its finest, yeah. And here's what I know, and I love that you're bringing that beloved community in, because this is becoming a passion of mine as well. And what we know is one of the rules of the game is that it isn't about competition, that we win and we succeed when we lift up and support and nurture others in their experience, in their journey, in their community's expansion.
Yeah, and that's and you know, if the past 3 years or so hasn't taught us anything, right? It should have taught us that we got to work together. You know, we have to become a beloved community where we are our brothers and sisters keepers. There's too many moving parts for any one person, or for that matter, any one group, to keep everything in check, if you will, or in line or in view. And so when we begin to create a beloved community where we understand how this thing plays out and that everybody has a part to play, now we can really benefit and get the best out of a moment.
Oh, I'm getting excited now. Folks, if you wonder what you're stumbled into, whether you're here watching with us live or at a later time, this is New Thought Today. I'm Rev Robert Brzezinski. This is my dear colleague, Reverend Elzia Sekou, and we're talking about New Thought's influence on the future of humanity, of the consciousness of the planet. And we're coming around to that point where let's make sure we clarify some definitions. We're talking about the beloved community. And the beloved community comes from an idea that was birthed in Martin Luther King Jr. And is being taught in various New Thought communities right now, currently, as a future model of spiritual community, of individual, of New Thought communities. And I think, and because here's the interesting part, I took a class last year and it was completely outside of my realm, as in it was all with a group of Unity people and Unity ministers. And not only did I get to learn more about this portion of the philosophy, this new impulse, but I got to learn a whole lot about how much we really are the same in this movement. The books are being written by Reverend Dr. Jim Lockhart, who is currently residing in Lyon, France, and has been a guest on this program. We're going to have him back again real soon, I think, at this point. And what it speaks to is understanding humanity and the human consciousness through a lens of spiral dynamics, in conjunction with what's known as integral theory and based on the philosophy of New Thought. So we have a philosophy and we have a theory and we have technique all rolled into one in this emerging concept of being, living, creating beloved community.
Yes. And one thing I saw listening to a lecture a day or so ago, and I heard that the one point that was made was that if you lose your way, and I've said this before, but this person brought it back to memory, if and when you lose your way, because we will, the natural scripture is what we have to go to first, right? And that natural scripture is not the Bible or the Quran or the Bhagavad Gita or the Torah. It is nature. It is, we have to look at that part of creation that was here before we came and will be here after we leave, to give us the clues, the signs of how to have an integral community, right? A beloved community. And so now we need to take heed and look at this idea of cycles, right? Right now we're in a cycle. Winter has not come to stay. It's come to fall away into spring, and spring will fall away into summer and back to fall, just like the symbol of the yin and yang, where they continue to create a cycle where they fall into each other. Yeah. There's no competition. There's no any of that. They understand that they have a season, a cycle, and an integration where they give way to each other.
Yes. And I agree. Right now, right, we're in that portion of the cycle where life is just different. I don't go out of the house wearing shorts. I put on socks and boots rather than just my flip-flops or a pair of sandals. And also, for me, it's so much easier in the winter. I'm a winter kind of guy, but it's so much easier in the winter to recognize those in the community that can use a little extra help. And whether it's the people that own the street, the house across the street from you, and their driveway and their walkway hasn't been shoveled yet, and everybody else's has, and you walk across the street, you take your shovel and you get their sidewalk clean for them so they don't have to, or whatever the little bits and pieces are. And that's part of what we're going to be talking about this whole year, is how can I get involved, and sometimes in the simplest of ways. What I just shared isn't an example. It isn't a theory. It's a demonstration. We had snow the other day. I'm out shoveling my driveway and getting everything clear to get my vehicles out. And I recognize there's an elderly couple. And now I don't think there's signs of life. We know they're in there, but I don't think they've gone out in a few days, and that's okay. The community made sure that their sidewalks were clear and safe, that if they need to get out, they can.
Right.
And if they're choosing to stay in, they can.
And, here's something that brings to mind when you say that. A while back, there was this whole thing, and it's still around. It got kind of faddish, I think. But the intent, I think, and the purpose was good. The whole pay it forward movement. And I think, one thing I'm going to do, and I just thought about this while you were talking, I'm going to go to the bank today or tomorrow, because I haven't been out either, but between today and tomorrow, I'm going to go out to a bank and I'm going to give them $10, and I'm going to get $10 worth of quarters at a minimum. And when I see someone on the street, I'm going to give them, 50 cents. Now, that's not a lot, you might say, but it's the thought and the energy that counts. And to be able to do that, I can give $10 away a week. That's nothing. Right. So if I get $10 a week in quarters and give and try to give something to every, that's $40 a month. Right. If you do, and how many lives can you can go now to if someone's hungry, they can go to a McDonald's and with $1 they can get a meal.
Right? Yeah. Not much of a meal.
Not much of a meal,
but it's something to fill the belly, and it's something to keep them moving. And it takes, to me, it takes that can be the inspiration that keeps somebody moving.
Yes.
When I fall off the wagon of my spiritual practice, when something slips, I can choose to beat myself up because, I forgot to do this piece of my practice, or that slipped away for a little bit, or whatever. Or I can say, wait a minute, just give me an inspiration to get recentered and get moving again.
Yes.
And for some people, that might be 50 cents in their pocket.
Yep.
It might be a little more, it might be a little less. You're reminding me that I haven't followed up on this, and I want to. Denver City is actually in the early stages, and I think they've identified the people already, that they have a minimum basic income program where and it might be starting this month. I don't know. They might have identified it, and I got to check in on this again, but they're going to give select people $1,000 a month for 1 year.
Yes.
To help them get off the streets.
Yes.
So again, you might say, well, wait a minute. If it takes $1,000, what's my 50 cents going to do?
Mm-hmm.
Just as Elzia said, just as we're talking about the little pieces, the little things, a pair of socks, a bag with deodorant and toiletries.
Yeah.
The little things that say, I care about you, even if I don't have the time to stop and lift you up out of what you're in.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's plenty of people out there that are trained in how to lift people up and get them out of where they've been. Yeah. We get to be that inspiration that says, you're not forgotten. I'm not blind. I'm not ignoring you. You're not invisible.
Yeah. And you bring up a good point, because one thing our community is going to contemplate this year, and we got to get on it, because I'm involved with another organization where, as an organization, we've adopted a family for 1 year, where we give them a certain amount every month to help with whatever, food, rent, utilities, and just in case, for those in Denver who are in the metro area, my electric and gas bill doubled in 1 month. Because of the natural gas prices have gone up and so forth. And so small things like that can help families. Right. And so we're looking at how we're going to identify family and how we're going to do that, and what's comfortable and a little bit of a stretch beyond the comfort to be able to do this. Even if it's just $100 a month, that's $100 worth of groceries they can get to feed themselves and their children. We're looking at that, and let's figure out ways that's comfortable, and then a little stretch for every one of us individually on how we can pay it forward.
Yes, you got my mind thinking, because some of these new telephone deals, Google Fi is $80 a month for a family of 4, unlimited data. Now, if you have phones, that's your max. If not, and you're leasing phones, then the price goes up considerably. But for a family of 2 or 3 that are in transition from, or just having a tough time making ends meet, $60-$80 a month could be the difference between having communications and being able to stay in touch with family and each other and not. And I'm pretty sure that there's probably a program to make all that happen already inside of Google. It's Google Fi for, that all we need is somebody to say, hey, wait a minute, we just had a great idea. Let's go talk to somebody about it. Let's write up a proposal. Let's put it on an idea. Let's make a slide deck, whatever it is. Get creative. Because if you have a great idea, that's not really your idea. That's the ideal of the divine. That's the divine shining through you to say, wow, hold on a second. That's the inspiration that you can use to make your contribution.
Yeah, because you think about it, right? If the bill is 4 phones and service at $85 a month, right? Quick math. That's $1,020 a year. If you had 5 people, they would have to give $17 a month or $204 on a one-time deal, and that's done.
Yep. And you're lifting a family not by just I got nothing wrong with just giving money, but you're lifting a family by allowing them the respect and the freedom to choose how they spend their money by helping to take care of basic needs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to get a job without a cell phone these days. It's really hard to catch a bus without a cell phone these days. It's really hard to use anything without a cell phone, without a device of some sort these days. And I think we're launching a whole new nonprofit here today, Z.
Yeah, exactly. Each one can connect. I mean, reach out and touch. You can call it reach out and touch, where you can touch somebody. Because and you think about now parents who have to work and have to leave their kids, how do I keep in touch with my kids?
Yeah.
Easily, without me stressing and without the kids stressing. Now
I'm surprised we haven't thought of this one before, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because I got a family of 4. We've had 4 cell phones for a number of years now. I know you have as well. For a number of years, it's been a constant juggling act of, okay, who needs a phone? Who's got one we can repurpose? Does it work on that network? What network's going to give me the best option? Who's going to give me the best price? It is a major hassle for a family with kids growing up, coming up. And if you're already on an edge, if you're already at risk, this seems like a no-brainer, easy way to make sure people stay connected and are able to participate in society.
Yeah, and this should be a theme. We're painting the picture like these backgrounds behind us here, where let's figure out how to get people back on food or clothing, some just basic needs, because we hear all the time that rents are going out the roof. Or food, they're just like here in Colorado, they're just which I think is a good thing. There's always 2 sides of the coin. They've said that for health reasons, eggs in Colorado need to be free range eggs, right?
Yes.
And okay, now that's going to cause chicken and egg producers, because they got to figure out a new way to do it. And the eggs are going to go up, but it should be a healthier egg, right? We've seen plenty of programs where they have these eggs cooped up in these pens, and all they do is lay eggs night and day, horrible conditions, which gets passed on to eggs that you eat. And so just little things. We know the food is going to go up as the quality of food goes up, and so we can supplement some of this stuff.
Yes, exactly. I do want to also just clarify, they do still have 2 more years to make that. The law went into effect yesterday or the day before, and they have until 2025 to comply.
Yeah.
So, but which is to me a little bit of why it's a little suspicious that price of eggs is going up through the roof in Colorado right now. However, maybe let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say some of these producers are already made the switch and have already embraced this truth.
Right.
And that we're now just going to see it happen immediately. I could go for that. The last stragglers get cleaned up by 2025. And every piece of what we've done to this point is going to change. It is, there's no way around it. What's gotten us to where we are is not what's going to take us to the next place. And the Model A didn't just put put the buggy makers out of business. They put the buggy whip makers out of business, and they put the blacksmiths that put the shoes on the horses out of business, and the whole entire thing changed.
Yeah.
And we're going to see, and we're in the midst of that again on an even bigger scale, because transportation is changing, healthcare is changing, education is changing, every trucking, transport, industry, logistics, every piece of human society is in the midst of major change.
Yeah. And it's interesting, when we start talking about the book of nature, right? Nature is telling us, if you don't change, I'm going to change it for you. I'm going to change you. And I mean, I saw on some of you know I love 60 Minutes and 60 Minutes and Sunday Morning, and I forget which show. I think it was on 60 Minutes. They showed this idea, well, not an idea, it's actually happening. They showed how they're using computers now to create marble art statues, like Galileo did, and which is a sign of the times. There was pros and cons, and even whatever the machine did, humans had to refine it to get it all polished and everything. But times are changing. The environment, the technology, the needs of the people are forcing us to look at life different than we've ever looked before. And we can make one thing or the other a villain, or we can look at how do we get the best out of these things to help create an environment, that works for all.
Yes.
Not only the humans, but the animals and the plants and the environment itself. And that's what we have to begin to look at, and stop all this other stuff about differences and separation. We need everybody to help us right now.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. As you're sharing all this, one thing that jumps into my mind too is, if you haven't been paying attention, folks, volcanoes have been popping off around the globe like crazy. Every time I turn around, there's another volcano that's starting to erupt, and this, that, the other thing. And Elzia, you say it all the time, right? Life is prime and nature is supreme.
Yeah.
Life is prime and nature is supreme. And we'll never outrun Mother Nature. But there is so much we can learn if we're willing to listen, if we're willing to watch, if we're willing to slow down. And that doesn't mean you have to give up living in a city or your life or whatever it is you're doing and go be a hermit in the woods, or a monk on a mountaintop. Goes with today's backgrounds. You can continue to be a part of this by listening to the natural rhythm of life and of who you are and who you came here to be.
And what that says, something that we always talk about in spiritual life, is that compels us to be in alignment. As you said earlier, if I walk outside today, right now, when it's like 27, 26 degrees here in Denver, I would not be in alignment if I'm walking out there with a t-shirt and short pants and flip-flops, right? If I'm driving my putting your foot on the clutch, allowing the gears, and there has to be an alignment for you to shift those gears and for that car to move forward. If there's no alignment, you're going to be jerking or stopped altogether. And this is what I think is happening right now. The universe is compelling us. You got to get in alignment with nature, with God, with spirit, with the greater picture of life, or else we're gonna have a tough time getting to the final destination, whatever that is, for each and every one of us.
Yep. You bring forward an old thought, an old saying from one of my first teachers in this thing. And he would say, you don't have to get everything together in your life. You don't have to put everything in order. You don't have to get it all right. All you got to do is get one thing. Get one thing in order. Because by the nature of the universe, those other things will line up behind that one thing. If you put one thing in order, everything else will start to line up behind that. And he challenged us by saying simply, what if that one thing is your spirituality, is your spiritual practice? What if that one thing is for you to get in alignment with what you really believe? Not what you say you believe, not what others tell you believe, but to get clear on what do you really believe about this universe. Is it a benevolent universe, or are you fighting uphill against the powers that be? Get really clear on your own spiritual beliefs, principles, practices, and everything else is going to line up behind that. And I'm here to tell you that 20 years down the line of following that advice and following that thought, it works.
Yeah.
I started by getting my spiritual life in order. Has it been easy? No. Has it been messy? Oh, heck yes. Has it been fun? Oh, hell yeah. And this stuff works if you work it.
Yeah. And that's the whole idea, and one of the beauties, I believe, in this whole concept of rituals.
Yeah.
Because they demand a certain commitment, they demand a certain level of discipline. And as you said, when you work them, they will work. And you know, all rituals can be adjusted to be in alignment with you, right? I mean, that, you know, one thing we learned, we know there's a universal language called math, right? And for those who've taken a little math and understand grafting, you know, there's this whole idea about the standard deviation, and then there's those, it's been given a bad name, the outliers, those who fall outside of the standard deviation, which basically says there's a norm that most people fall in, and then there's those on either side of that norm. Well, the thing is, that will always be the case. And so even those people who so-called fall outside the norm, that one time they called them the cultural creative. But this whole idea of creating what works for you, there's a norm that works, and then those who are on the outside of that curve, that they're just as important, and their rituals will get changed, but they have to align them with what they are, who they are, where they are, and it just runs smoothly that way.
Yeah. Now, and again, right, I love making sure we say this. This does not lead, this belief does not lead to total chaos. It doesn't mean you can just go running around willy-nilly doing any old damn thing you want. Well, you can, but there will be consequences to pay. There is still this law of cause and effect in line, that if I go running out into the street wearing flip-flops and a t-shirt on a cold December day at 2 degrees below zero, I'm not making it to the mailbox and back. And I will pay the consequences for that. If I go running around running red lights, come to Colorado, folks, watching people just run red lights willy-nilly, sooner or later, the piper comes to call.
Yeah. And so, you know, one of the things I think that's going to be key for this year is for everyone at whatever level you are, and I'll tell you to stretch that level, to be more compassionate, to be more giving, to be more introspective, to be more reflective, and to be more open to finding similarities and commonalities between someone you don't know or someone you don't know that well, and begin to create this exchange. Because we know those things that belong together get together. And so there's a book that came out a while back called The Celestine Prophecy by James Redfield. If you haven't read that, I know a lot of people have, but if you haven't, it's a good read for right now. But one of the points in that book was, if you come across somebody and you and you make eye contact for, I think it was like 2 seconds, 3 seconds.
Yep.
That there is some energy that needs to be exchanged, and you should say hi.
Yep.
Or how, there should be some effort to exchange that energy because something's there. And so we have to begin to look at life that way. That says, even if it's a learning point, a helping point, or a point to make alignments with one thing or another, that's what we have to begin to do. Be courageous to take that step.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that you bring the Celestine prophecy into this, because I read that before I found New Thought.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a gateway drug. That was an awakening book. That was like, wow, where did this is interesting. Wouldn't it be cool if this shit was real? Wouldn't it be cool if that really worked? If you could really do that? That was my mindset when, and it wasn't more than a couple years, I think, before I find New Thought, before New Thought finds me. Right, I was already on that path. And when New Thought finds me, then it reflects back and go, oh, wow, it is real.
Yeah.
That book I read a couple of years back, where is that? That's laying around in a pot. Oh, yeah, this stuff really is real. Here it is. Here's now the community that's proving that. And that's, to me, is the gateway to 2023.
Yeah.
Is that we now stand on the precipice, I don't know, let's not call it the precipice. We now stand at the vista where we can see the future of spiritual community. It looks like a beloved community, and we're going to interchange those terms moving forward. And we're standing there. So for me, this excitement, there is this incredible sense of like, oh my gosh, golly gee God, here we go. Here are all the conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Here is the divine mandate, because after what we've been through as a human race in the last few years, now more than ever, and I know that phrase is starting to get overworked. Now more than ever, if not us, who? And we're the only ones, and we're the ones we've been waiting for. I know this stuff's getting overworked, but it's because it's the truth.
Yeah. And I think, one thing I know, one goal of mine for this year in terms of the beloved community is to figure out how do we bring our young people, our young adults, more in line with this idea, because we talk about them, and I have two of them in the new group and one of them in the old group, and we talk about them, but they have skills and insights and prophecies, if you will, of their own that we need to capture, because they've gone through a whole different maturation period than we have in terms of when I think about it, my last two kids, they've always known about technology, right? At some level, and so they have, and it's not going away. We know that. So the way to use it, the way to incorporate it, how to make it a part of the beloved community, and not be a hindrance or some addictive kind of thing that's stymieing us. We need them to talk to us, to show us, to help us figure out how to use these tools in a positive way and not in a detriment to ourselves, humanity, or the planet itself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm trying, as you're saying that, I'm trying to remember if my kids were born, if we still had a plug-in phone, a wired a landline. There it is. That's the word I'm looking for. A landline phone when my kids were born, or if we were already on the early versions of cell phones, pre-smartphone, the early version when you just had phones and you had to pay for texts. We're that old, folks. And but predominantly, no, they don't. They know a technology-based world, and they know that they can approach life the universe and everything. Thank you, Douglas Adams. They can approach my kids know the answer to that question is 42.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little bit of old school thrown in, but they only know it because they saw the movie trailer first, and then my eldest decided to go back and read the book.
Mm-hmm.
So technology is here. How do we use it? And I tell you, I don't try to talk to the younger generations. I try to get them to talk to me.
Yeah.
I figure if I can get them to talk to me, I'm going to hear something. I remember a long time back, I forget who said this to me. They said, you're never going to run a young adult ministry with a 50-year-old at the helm. Now we're changing that language a little bit. Rather than saying a young adult ministry, we're talking next gen ministry. Because next gen goes a little beyond just young adults and goes into full adults. But also encompasses more than just young, that encompasses the younger side of adulthood as well.
Right. And what we have to begin to look at, I think, two things I want to say, in terms of the technology piece, my 9-year-old grandson knows more about how to do certain things with technology than I do. And I'm a technologist. Okay. Because they got to it so early, and they had no blocks, and they had no anything to keep them from exploring and testing. So we have to prepare for that. Number one. Number two, is that part of the beloved community, when we look at this idea of a beloved community, I think the indigenous cultures have done a very good job of modeling that. And us, the elders have to begin to take position as elders in the community.
Right.
We're the wisdom keepers. We're the ones to give them a ground to play on and say, ooh, I'm not going to try and tell you what you can't do, but I'm going to tell you that was tried before, and you might want to take a different approach. And they have to go and find it. But we have to begin to take ownership of our position in this thing called life as elders and wisdom keepers, and begin to figure out how to communicate with our young adults, our young people, to give them what they need to be successful.
But I'm not ready to be old. I'm not ready. I joke, folks. I joke. You don't have to be old to be a wisdom keeper.
Exactly.
But in a lot of communities, that's the old default is, you're done contributing, so now you just go sit in the corner and keep the wisdom. And I want to find a way for that to be more active. I agree with you. Yes. Right. There are those with the institutional wisdom. There are those with the cultural wisdom. There are those with the visionary wisdom that absolutely can point to the fact that is a fabulous idea. And let me share with you what I know about what's kept people from a success in that arena prior. And what do you need to overcome those hurdles?
Yeah.
Because the last guy couldn't do it, but that doesn't mean you can't do it.
Yeah. And it's kind of like the whole idea when they had the tsunamis, getting back to that natural script. When the tsunamis happened, the humans went one way and animals went another way, because they said, ooh, I felt this energy before. Papa bear, Papa squirrel, mama bird told me, when you feel this energy, you go that way. And that's what we have to begin to translate for our young adults and our young people, is to share the experience. Not that theirs will be the same, but if we're playing a game called life, if you will, that we used that metaphor before, there's certain things about the playing field that don't change.
Right. Driving a culture apart never changes. No. I'm immediately called to this sense of deep separation that is forming within the culture of the United States currently. And we have to be willing to be the ones to say, no, I felt this energy before, and we're not doing this. We're not going to feed that disbelief. We're not going to feed that sense of division and separation. We got to launch out into the unknown with our hand reaching out in front to grasp somebody else's and say, hey, let's sit down and talk. Let's have a conversation. Let's have a community table, and let's put aside any of these senses, any concept that we're right, wrong, different, red, blue, green, purple, any of that.
Yeah. And that's why I think it's so important. And one of my goals is to read more, whether that's the actual book or from an audio book, beyond my normal genre of books, right?
Uh-huh.
Or podcasts, or because I'm compelled to be more engaged, which means I have to expand my knowledge base now, because things that I knew have been expanded, and I maybe need to learn them in a new way. There are things that I haven't done before that I need to learn about, period. And so by reading more and listening to audiobooks or podcasts, now, we all have to find our place, but let's do it.
Yeah. I think this is the year. I do believe now is the time. And I do believe that, well, we are the ones.
Yeah.
No matter how cliche it may sound, there is such a deep sense. I feel compelled. It's deeper than just a calling. It's compulsion. I'm being compelled to find that outlet through spiritual community. Yeah. And what I know is that's going to take a lot of hearts and a lot of hands that are embracing their own unique gifts and skills and talents. I can get up in the morning and I could easily, let's play electrician for a moment. I could easily go run wire and pull wire through a tube and wire up an entire house. But if you start letting me play with where the wires go in the junction box and which one goes to the power and which one goes to the ground, that's not going to be my forte. You're going to want somebody else to do that job. But I can do the basic part of it, but I'm not going to call myself an electrician. We each have these unique skill sets, talents, abilities, callings, all of it, that it's up to us to say yes to that. And what I know is the universe makes a way. When we put one thing in order, everything else is going to line up behind that.
Yeah. And I think, that's the key, is that, again, using cliche, we all have to do our parts.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to figure out what our part is and do it, and know that we can always get better at it, and we can always add more skills to our toolkit, if you will. But let's not allow ourselves to do nothing because we don't think we're an expert, right? Or I don't have enough tools in my toolkit, so I can't contribute. Everybody is needed. When you think about now, and I'm gonna use this example, but when you think about World War II, right? The idea of the country was everybody has a part to play. We can all work together to make things right. Okay. Now, we can get some subjective information on that, but that's not the point. The point is the idea of everybody working together for a common good. And it was out of that period, out of that generation, that we see a lot of technology and a lot of things moving forward that were created from that can-do, work-together attitude.
Yep. Exactly. And folks, I'm going to tell you, we're going to wrap it up here by reminding you that we have that same can-do attitude here at New Thought Media Network. We've got new programs premiering all the time. We're part of that natural flow and that natural cycle. And one of the ways that that happens is through your financial gifts, contributions, tithes, and offerings. If you're a part of the New Thought Media Network Committed Giving Program, thank you. We love you. You're important. And every bit that you give goes a long, long way to keeping this network moving forward and bringing more of this, not only this type of programming, but also the type of community that we're talking about. Rev Z and I are right now in the final planning stages of offering a hybrid in-person and virtual class offering around being part of a beloved community and supporting and nurturing those ideas. We have other ideas that are coming forward and other projects that you're going to hear about as we go throughout this year. So we invite you to join us by donating. Head on over to ntmedia.org, click on that donate button, and make it a monthly donation. We'll include you in the next version of our thank you video. The one we've got today is a little outdated, so we're just saying thank you directly to all of our sponsors, all of our committed givers, and those of you that are joining us on this mighty mission in 2023. I'm Rev Robert. We're going to get out of here for now. Before we do, however, we do have a quick tradition called Final Thoughts. Rev Z?
Yeah, so and mine is very simple. Find a community. All communities can be spiritual, whether it's an art community or a sports community or church community or synagogue community. Find a community and get involved.
Amen. And if that community is New Thought Media Network, well, call me. Hit me up on email. We're going to get out of here for now, folks. Thanks again for being a part of what we're doing here. Like, share, subscribe, hit any buttons that you like that have an upward facing thumb or whatever it might be. We'll be back again next week. Until then, we wish you peace and richest blessings. Bye now.